The noob player. Fresh players diving into modern Clash Royale are dealing with mechanics that didn't exist when the game launched. They're facing evolved cards like Evo Knight, new spell cards like Vines that work completely differently than they look, and an expanded trophy road system that goes way beyond 9,000 trophies into these seasonal arenas, starting at 10,000. But their biggest mistake isn't what you think it is. Watch a noob rush the bridge with an underleveled Goblin Giant and absolutely zero support cards. They'll drop an 8 elixir golem when they only have 9 elixir total, leaving themselves completely defenseless against any counter push. The worst part, they use Vines to randomly entangle whatever troops they see instead of targeting key units that actually matter, and they panic deploy Ice Spirit thinking it's gonna save their tower somehow. The tutorial teaches none of this advanced stuff that actually wins games. The game evolved way past what new players learn in that basic training mode. They're thrown into real matches against people who understand positive elixir trades and spell cycling while they're still trying to figure out why their tower died in 30 seconds flat. But at least noobs are trying to learn, unlike the next player type, the casual player. These are the laid-back players who hop into 1 versus 1 and 2 versus 2 battles with whatever random deck they threw together 5 minutes ago. They'll run a basic Royal Hog cycle, pair Baby Dragon with completely random support cards that make no strategic sense, and they genuinely don't care if their deck actually works together. They rarely push past Arena 16, staying comfortable around 5,000 to 6,000 trophies maximum because climbing higher would require effort they're not willing to put in. But there's one thing they do that actually makes them smarter than most players. While everyone else stresses about the September balance changes that nerfed minions or buffed Dark Prince, casual players didn't even notice the update happened. They're too busy having emote battles with friends and laughing at ridiculous deck combinations that somehow work in party mode. They contribute way more to the community than people realize. They figured out something most players completely miss. Clash Royale is actually designed to be fun first. They're not stressed about trophies, they're not raging at bad matchups, and they're definitely not spending money chasing ranks they don't care about. Which brings us to players who care way too much about those trophies. The average player. Average players know the fundamentals pretty well. They'll counter Goblin Barrel with Berserker, and use Barbarian Barrel for swarm control without thinking about it. They play daily, they understand basic card interactions, and they genuinely try to improve their gameplay every session. They usually sit between 6,000 trophies in arenas like Royal Crypt or Boot Camp, which puts them solidly in the middle of the player base, and this is exactly why they're stuck in trophy hell. But watch them face an evolved Goblin Giant push, and they completely panic. They don't know the elixir-efficient counters, they mistime their Vines against Royal Giant evolutions because they don't understand the targeting mechanics, and they cycle through mid-tier decks like Hog Rider with Earthquake without understanding why those specific cards work together. They win games through solid fundamentals, but lose to anyone with better card levels or deeper meta knowledge. They represent the biggest chunk of active players, good enough to understand how the game works, not good enough to break through the skill ceiling that separates them from higher arenas. They're the backbone keeping matchmaking alive and queue time short, but they're forever stuck watching better players climb past them into arenas they can't reach. Speaking of players everyone watches, let's talk about the most entertaining ones, the emote guy. Every single play gets an emote reaction from these players, no matter how small or insignificant. Successful log dodge, laughing face emote spam, tower chip damage worth 50 health, thumbs up celebration like they just won worlds, overtime push that might not even connect, crying emotes flooding the screen before the push even reaches the bridge. They turn every 1v1 ladder match into a theatrical performance, regardless of whether they're running meta decks like Golem Baby Dragon or completely off-meta experiments. But this behavior actually serves a psychological purpose most people miss. They're not just randomly spamming for no reason. There's actual strategy here. They celebrate big plays to tilt opponents and make them play emotionally instead of logically. They cry face when behind to make their comebacks feel more dramatic and demoralizing, and they use emotes to communicate with 2v2 partners. The community either absolutely loves them for adding personality to matches or completely hates them for being distracting and annoying. What they're actually doing is creating emotional investment in matches that would otherwise feel robotic and impersonal. They make every game memorable and help newer players feel like they're playing against real humans instead of AI bots with perfect timing. But some players take this way further into actual sabotage territory, the troll. These players intentionally throw matches specifically for entertainment value, rather than trying to win. They'll deploy maxed Evo skeletons directly into enemy spells just to waste elixir and confuse their opponent. Activate rage on a single isolated bomber in 2v2, to make their teammate question reality, or surrender with 3 elixir left when the game is completely tied and winnable. They mostly stick to casual and classic modes, where the stakes are low and people expect weird gameplay, and their impact on the game is way bigger than you realize. The community actually loves the content they create without realizing it. Troll plays become viral clips on Reddit and TikTok, spawning entire comment threads about the funniest ways to throw matches and the most creative ways to waste elixir. They highlight how flexible Clash Royale's multiplayer design really is. The game accommodates non-competitive fun just as well as serious strategic gameplay. They're accidentally preserving the game's casual roots, while everyone else takes it super seriously and forgets it started as entertainment. Their meme clips remind the community that Clash Royale began as a quick, humorous strategy game before it evolved into this intense esports phenomenon, with professional players and prize pools. Unlike trolls who are intentionally funny, the next player type is unintentionally hilarious, the Rager. These players completely lose emotional control when matches don't go their way, and it's visible to everyone in the match. Face an over-leveled Royal Giant evolution that your deck can't handle, they're quitting mid-battle and spamming angry emotes. Get outcycled by a fast deck while running a heavy golem beatdown? Angry emote spam followed by immediate surrender even when they could still defend and come back. Miss a crucial Vines counter that costs them their tower? They rage quit and they're trying to break their phone screen. But the real reason they rage isn't what most people think. It happens most in the grindiest part of ladder. That's 7,000 to 9,000 trophy range, where balance changes hit hardest and matchmaking feels most unfair. The September nerfs made their bad matchups even worse, creating situations where their decks simply cannot win against certain opponents, and they can't handle the psychological pressure of losing games that feel unwinnable from the start. They flood the game with abandoned matches they could still turn around and create the toxic reputation that mobile esports struggles with in the broader gaming community. What's really happening is they care too much about progression in a system specifically designed to keep them stuck at certain trophy levels. The game's matchmaking algorithms and seasonal resets create artificial frustration to encourage spending, and they don't have the emotional tools to handle that manipulation. But their rage is nothing compared to the frustration caused by the next player type, the mid-ladder menace player type, the most universally hated players in all of Clash Royale. They sit in the 8,000 to 10,000 trophy range with completely maxed decks, running over-leveled meta-abusing combinations like Evo Goblin Giant with Rage, or maxed evolved barbarians that steamroll anything in their path. They dominate arenas like Valhalla or the shifted legendary arena, farming players who are skill-wise much better, but card levels significantly worse. And they're the reason the entire community wants one specific change. They got these insane card levels through either excessive grinding over multiple years or straight-up purchases to skip the progression entirely. Then they deliberately stay in lower trophy ranges instead of pushing into seasonal arenas above 10,000, where they'd face equally maxed opponents with actual skill. They win purely through raw stat advantages rather than strategic thinking, creating the most demotivating matchups possible for players trying to develop their skills. A level 11 player with perfect elixir management and great timing simply cannot beat a level 14 Evo Goblin Giant, no matter how well they play. They're the living proof that Clash Royale's progression system has fundamental problems that hurt the competitive integrity. Every single forum complaint about unfair matchmaking, every Reddit post about quitting the game, every negative review mentioning pay-to-win mechanics traces back to these players exploiting level advantages instead of improving at the game. The community constantly demands level caps, skill-based matchmaking, or better progression systems, specifically because of mid-ladder menaces. At least they're spending money on the game. Unlike the next player type who's mastered beating them for free, the free-to-play player, these players prove that skill beats spending every single time, and they're absolutely dedicated to that principle. Despite tightened progression with nerfed chest rewards and more gold-focused drops that make upgrading harder, they methodically farm every single free reward available, pass Royale free track, daily quests, run budget-friendly decks like Hog Rider, cycle with Goblin Drill setups that don't require expensive legendary cards or multiple evolutions to function properly. But their secret strategy makes whales absolutely furious. The crazy part, many free-to-play players reach Ultimate Champion tier purely through grinding over multiple seasons and perfect gameplay. They master positive elixir trades against premium evolutions, use precise log timing to clear expensive swarms, and deploy Rage for perfect crowd control that shuts down beatdown decks costing twice as much elixir. They inspire countless YouTube tutorials showing free-to-play friendly strategies and proving that meta decks can be beaten by smart plays. They're living proof that Supercell actually designed the game to be completely beatable without spending a single dollar. Their success stories keep the entire community believing in skill over wallet size, and they absolutely infuriate players who spent hundreds of dollars only to lose to completely free decks piloted by better players. Which brings us to the players who definitely don't worry about free decks. Subscribe if you recognize yourself in any of these player types. The pay-to-win player. These players treat Clash Royale like a subscription service with a very expensive monthly fee that most people couldn't afford. They buy Pass Royale, gem bundles, and offers to instantly max out every single new card that gets released within hours of it hitting the game. Royal Giant Evolutions, Vines Troop, whatever drops in the next update. They have it maxed and ready to dominate before most players even see what it does. And the amount they actually spend will shock you. They maintain constant top ladder presence around 12,000 plus trophies in seasonal arenas, running over-leveled combinations that would take free-to-play players literally years to achieve through normal progression. Their spending habits fund Supercell's entire development budget. New features, esports tournaments, server maintenance, balanced team salaries, everything the game needs to exist. Some whales spend thousands of dollars per month just to stay competitive with other whales in the highest trophy ranges. The biggest spenders drop more money on Clash Royale in a year than most people spend on their car payments. They're the reason Clash Royale can afford to be free to play for everyone else, providing all the revenue that keeps the servers running and updates coming. But they also create the pay-to-win reputation that drives away potential new players who see max decks and assume the game is impossible without spending money. The pro player. These are the world-class players competing in Clash Royale League with its Gold Edition events and World Finals at major venues like DreamHack Atlanta, playing for prize pools worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. They don't just follow the meta, they create it by discovering advanced deck combinations like Hog P.E.K.K.A, Evo Goblin Giant variants, that become the new standard everyone else copies. But even they have one weakness that costs them championships. Pro players consistently maintain at most 15,000 trophies in seasonal arenas through absolutely flawless elixir management and perfect prediction of opponent card cycles 3 moves ahead. They analyze every single balance change like September's Spirit Empress and Nerf within hours of release to instantly adapt their strategies and find new optimal plays. They compete for prize pools that can change their lives while millions of viewers watch their tournament matches and try to learn from their gameplay. They've elevated Clash Royale from a casual mobile game that people play on the toilet into a legitimate esport with global recognition and professional leagues. Their gameplay sets the strategic benchmarks that every other player type tries to copy, from their elixir management to their card timing to their deck building philosophy. Their feedback directly influences how Supercell balances the game, making them essentially unofficial consultants who shape the experience for millions of players. Their weakness: they sometimes overthink situations where simpler plays would work better, losing games by trying to make the perfect